Alright, welcome back, good people. On this video, I'm going to talk about stress. I'm going to talk about 10 things about stress. Now, I was doing some research this week on health, and I ran across this article about 10 health problems related to stress that you can fix by a person by the name of R. Morgan Griffin. And I took a few excerpts from it. I'm going to share that with you. And hopefully you'll be able to gain a perspective about some of the things related to stress that even I didn't know. Well, I say even I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I do understand that people are under large amounts of stress from time to time. When you think about what's going on in your life, you know, you may be under some stress right now as I'm making this video and as you're viewing this video. And we all react differently to stress, right? We all have our own DNA that cause us to do things a certain way or think a certain way or react a certain way. So a lot of times that's based on the stress that we have in our lives. So I'm going to share some of the article, and hopefully you'll get a perspective that will be able to help you understand a little bit more about how stress is or is not working in your life. It says, need another thing to get stressed out about? Your stress itself could be making you sick. Stress doesn't only make us feel awful emotionally, says Jay Winner, MD, author of Take the Stress Out of Your Life and director of stress management program for Sansum Clinic in Santa Barbara, California. It can also exacerbate just about any health condition you can think of. Studies have found many health problems related to stress seems to worsen or increase the risk of conditions like obesity, heart disease, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, depression, gastrointestinal problems, and asthma. Now, before you get too stressed out about being stressed out, there is some good news. Following some simple stress-related relief tips could both lower your stress and lower your health risks. What are some of the most significant health problems related to stress? Glad you asked. Number one, heart disease. Researchers have long suspected that the stressed out type A personality has a higher risk of high blood pressure and heart problems. We don't know why exactly. Stress can directly increase heart rate and blood flow and cause the release of cholesterol and triglycerides into the bloodstream. It's also possible that stress is related to other problems, an increased likelihood of smoking or obesity that indirectly increases the heart risks. Now, doctors do know that sudden emotional stress can be a trigger for serious cardiac problems, including heart attacks. People who have chronic heart problems need to avoid acute stress and learn how to successfully manage life's unavoidable stresses as much as they can. Now, asthma is another. I'm someone who suffers with asthma. Although it's a slight case of asthma, it's not like I have to be on a ventilator or anything like that, but I do have to use a breathalyzer from time to time because I have asthma. So that's what one of my medicines would be. Now, it says many studies have shown that stress can worsen asthma. So I like to keep stress out of my life, as you can imagine. Now, some evidence suggests that apparent chronic stress might even increase the risk of developing asthma in children. One study looked at how prenatal stress affected the asthma rates of young children who were also exposed to air pollution whose mothers smoked during pregnancy. The kid with stressed out parents had a substantially higher risk of developing asthma. Next, we have obesity. Excessive fat in the belly seems to pose greater health risk than fat on the legs or thighs. And unfortunately, that's just where people with high stress seems to store their stress. Stress causes higher levels of hormone cortisol, says Winner, and that seems to increase the amount of fat that's deposited in the abdomen. So if you notice, a lot of people seem to have like a little belly, or a little pouch right there. A lot of that could be stress, according to Dr. Winter. Now, diabetes is another. It says diabetes can worsen, stress can worsen diabetes in two ways. First, it increases the likelihood of bad behaviors such as unhealthy eating and excessive drinking. Second, stress seems to rise the glucose levels of people with type 2 diabetes directly. Next, we have headaches. Stress is considered one of the most common triggers for headaches, not just tension headaches, but migraines as well. Depression and anxiety follows that. It's probably no surprise that chronic stress is connected with higher rates of depression and anxiety. One survey of recent study found that people who had stress related to their jobs, like demanding work with few rewards, had an 80% higher risk of developing depression within a few years than people who had lower stress levels. Next, we have gastrointestinal problems. Here's one thing that stress doesn't do. It doesn't cause ulcers. However, it can make them worse. Stress is also a common factor in many GI conditions such as chronic heartburn or gastro reflux disease and irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, says Dr. Winter. Alzheimer's disease is the next one. One animal study found that stress might worsen Alzheimer's disease, causing its brain lesions to form more quickly. Some researchers speculate that reducing stress has the potential to slow down the progression of the Alzheimer's disease. Next, we have accelerated aging. Think about that. Getting older because you stay under stress. There's actually evidence that stress can affect how you age. One study compared the DNA of mothers who were under high stress. They were caring for a chronically ill child. The women who were not. Let me read that again. Accelerated aging. There's actual evidence that stress can affect how you age. One study compared the DNA of mothers who were under high stress. They were caring for a chronically ill child with women who were not. Researchers found that a particular region of the chromosome showed the effects of accelerated aging. Stress seemed to accelerate aging about 9 to 17 additional years. That's a lot. 9 to 17 additional years being under stress. And finally, it says premature death. A study looked at the health effects of stress by studying elderly caregivers looking after their spouses, people who are naturally under a great deal of stress. It found that caregivers had a 63% higher rate of death than people their age who were not caregivers. So think about that too. That was really interesting to me, because we all get old, right? So as we get old, someone has to care for us, right? It's like when you had to care for a baby. Think about that. Think about older people now. They revert back to where they can no longer take care of themselves. They have to have someone take care of them. So the caregiver is 63% more likely to die because they're giving care to someone that's can't take care of themselves. Amazing stuff. I love it. Don't you love that? Now see, some of that you knew, some of that you didn't know. But either way, you got a chance to hear it, right? So that's my objective, or that's my job, is to put the information in front of you and let you dissect it the way you want to. You could say, I don't want to hear that stuff, and that's okay. But you can't say that you didn't know because I just gave it to you, right? All right, now we got it. All right, my name is Larry James. My company is Speak with Larry, and my website is speakwithlarry.com, and my blog is speakwithlarry.blog, and my podcast is speakwithlarry. No, just kidding. I have a podcast though, Speak with Larry's podcast. Check it out sometimes. I'll see you on the next video.